So Susan Glenney is a New Englander at heart. The author lives along the Connecticut River, which she visits frequently. She is passionate about being outdoors and enjoys the pageantry and uniqueness of every season. For the past 25 years, she has practiced daily meditation, and this and humor helps keep her life light. Susan has written this wonderful book that I had a chance to look at today. It's called Moments in Time with 16 Men. Now, I'm going to let you do the talking about this book. Susan, go ahead.
Thanks so much for having me today. I really appreciate it. This is a great opportunity. Yep, I am the author of Moments in Time with 16 Men. That's backwards, but you, you get the gist of it. And it's interesting because I self-published the book. So as a self-published writer, you go through the entire process. Unlike, if you have a publishing house. And one of the things was interesting, the cover, I helped design it with a friend of mine. And initially I had it so that it was a clock with 16 numbers. And then I was gonna have the title, Moments in Time with 16 Men. And then later I made a heart and I put the numbers around it. And then I got rid of that. And then I came up with this with my friend in Maine, and she took it. And what she did is she put the title in it and then she made arrows inside the heart. So that's just one of the things as a self-published writer I had to go through. It's very interesting because I was involved in the entire process of the writing. And the book is a coming of age novel and it stars Jennifer Grace Donnelly. And she's a nice Irish Catholic girl from Massachusetts. And she and these 16 men have a huge impact on her life. And so it's her journey and how these 16 men affected her. So I'm going to read the opening page so you'll get an idea. I'm going to turn the light on to see how the lighting is here. Let's see. So it starts off with Jennifer and Scotty is her childhood playmate, and she adores him. Like all families, the Donnellys have their secrets. It was the 1960s, and for most Americans, the desire for middle-class suburban lifestyle was at its height. The Donnellys, second-generation Irish, were among the fortunate living out the American dream on their steel blue Cape with its attached garage, green manicured lawn, 2 kids and a dog. In their bubble of Quinlan, a Boston bedroom community, they fit right into suburbia, but life is messy and doesn't fit into a nice, neat package. It never has, and it never will. And there are those secrets, all those dirty little secrets hidden for decades. But on that pleasant Memorial Day in 1967, 60-year-old Jennifer's Grace Donnelly's main focus was being happy and getting to play with their best friend, Scotty. And Scotty she thinks he's like Superman. She just adores him. So they spend this day together and it's very delightful. They play with chipmunks, they eat watermelon, he spits seeds at her, and they just have this childhood interaction. And when you read it, you can feel it, and it also brings you back to your childhood. So you have that loving memory of childhood. So there are these chapters and they're all interwoven, and some are so delightful, like with she and Scotty, and then some are pretty daunting. So these 16 men, originally it was 19 men, but I basically, I let a few of the guys go. And so I ended up with 16 men, and it's the good, bad, and ugly men that have affected Jennifer. And what's interesting, a lot of my ideas writing this came from a wide variety of sources. Some were on my own personal background. I had some trauma as a child. So There's parallels with that in the book. And then some are just TV shows that I watched or newspaper articles I read or just listening to friends. So I put everything in a blender, all these situations and all these characters, and then out come the 16 men. And one of the chapters is on a road trip, and it's with Jennifer and Leo. And this is at a midpoint where Jennifer is going back east, and she's on a road trip with Leo, and she got this gentleman from actually a ride board at the University of Minnesota. And this takes place about 30 or 40 years ago. And she is real reluctant to have Leo coming on to this road trip. But because she's desperate and she needs someone to go on this road trip, she's getting back east and she wants someone to do the driving, she takes him on board. And it's almost like you can't judge a book by its cover. And initially she did. And then initially she didn't. And then she did. And she went back and forth. But there's a situation where she's at a turning point with Leo. And they're going through customs. And I'll read this to you. It took an hour to get to Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, which crossed into Canada. The border's up ahead. You don't have everything to declare, do you? Nope. She grinned over at him. Ah, this should be a breeze. We'll be there in no time. At the custom booth, Jennifer rolled down her window and smiled at the officer. The frontline agent glared directly at Jennifer. His eyes then scanned over to Leo, who removed his Ray-Bans. May I have your driver's license and car registration? Jennifer handed them over. He examined them and looked down at Jennifer. How long are you going to be in the country? A few days. What's the purpose of your trip? Traveling through. And what's the address of the place you'll be staying at? We plan to find some campsites and motels along the way. The officer continued to hold Jennifer's documents. Sir, can I see your license? Leo handed it to Jennifer, who passed it to the officer. She noticed in the photo that Leo had a beard and longer hair. The officer studied it too, his eyes darting back and forth from the photo to Leo. Sir, could you step out of the car? Jennifer's eyes fixed on Leo with terror. What's going on? Her hands gripped the steering wheel. She told herself, keep quiet, don't say a word. Leo calmly pushed away several boxes to get his backpack. He followed a second officer to an area that Jennifer couldn't see. Ma'am, I need you to get out of your car and go to the last booth. Oh my God, what the crap is going on? Jennifer exited her car and followed a tall, skinny officer to a small enclosed area. Jennifer stiffened. She couldn't breathe. A more senior officer with puffy cheeks leaned over her, almost touching her face. Why are you traveling with Leo Benishad? Jennifer rambled an incoherent answer. I know Leo from a ride board at the University of Minnesota. I have so much stuff because I'm moving back east. I had the vacuum cleaner in there because I had to clean my apartment before I left. I've only known him for 2 days. He has good references. The officer remained stone-faced. Please come this way. 2 more officers escorted her back to her car and dug through her boxes, garbage bags, and everything she hastily wedged under the seats. Jennifer was petrified that they would discover something she hadn't put there in the first place. So you'll have to decide for yourself, and when you read the chapter, which side of the coin is Leo on? And it was interesting because when I asked my friends and the people who read the book, who is one of the most interesting characters in the book, most everyone said Leo. So it's a very interesting when you get to know someone and you don't judge a book by its cover. You learn a lot about yourself and a lot about humanity. So this is the type of situation, the journey that Jennifer's gone on. And it's a
And-
healing process. And she learns about herself. And
I
she's
am
trying-
so impressed with how you dealt with the trauma too, that she remembers from her past. And
Right. That's
just-
one of the big, yes. So writing the book was a big healing process for me because I learned about having to heal my own life. And it really has given me empathy for so much of the things that are going on in the world. And for anybody who reads the book, it really gives you understanding inside someone's head about the healing process. So you really learn the healing process. And, you know, the book's very, very hopeful. And Jennifer, what's great about her is she comes out the other end. She comes out radiant. She comes out, and she actually is an author. She comes out, she leaves her teaching career, rediscovers herself, and then she comes out and she writes a thriller called Saving George. It's about a heist that takes place at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts. And someone tries to steal a George Washington painting. And it was 1976 during the American Bicentennial. So it's this heist, and that's what she writes about. And she really thrives, and she does it through sense of humor. She does it through meditation. She does it through being outdoors. And I think that's the beauty of learning as a human being is when you deal with situations that are awful or painful and you get through them, you really find that there's a lot of hope. And there's a very much of a lot of goodness in the world. So Jennifer found that. And I think first and foremost, she found it also within herself. And that's where she got the answers. The 16 men were on the path, and she experienced the good, bad, and ugly with them. But it was ultimately herself that she had to go within. And then later in life, that's when she finds a remarkable, loving husband. But I won't go any more into the details.
You don't want to give away the
Too much. No, no, no. I won't tell you where. Also, too, is I have a cameo appearance with Harlan Coben. He's in my book. He's a thriller, and she likes writing thrillers, so she goes to a Barnes and Noble book signing in Boston, and Harlan Coben's discussing his book.
There you go.
I had little Harlan thrown in there.
That's the nice thing about books. You can introduce a character and you don't have to pay for it.
Right. Yes, yeah. He was free. He was lucky. I was lucky.